networks, you've got a set of inputs from the dendrites. You've got some weighting functions, like how important do I think input number 3 is? It's just another factor in there. It all gets somehow summed up, and then there's some kind of threshold function, just saying if the activity generated by this function here goes above a certain value, I will just activate my output. And then there will be an impulse sent to the next neighbors in that neural network. So the dots actually are now neurons, and this is how they're connected. And this is a fairly simple model of what's going on in neural networks. So you have some kind of input layer, that's the green stuff. And this is passed through a filter layer. And if the filter layer decides, okay, this has been important stuff going on there, then it passes it on to the output. And to the output layer, where it is somehow, well, going through your mouth or whatever senses there are. And I mean, you probably can already see the analogy to our communication networks. If there's the input layer, say it's some Twitter users, and they will Twitter about, well, let's say 2633 is happening and everybody's happy about it, then the filter layer that's surrounding them will pass it on to the adjacent nodes, which is basically the output layer. So, when you're looking at individuals, I mean, I think, therefore I am, maybe Borg. Pretty much that's all you know about yourself. There's something going on in your head, and that's me, and, well, but where do I start? Is it just the brain? Is it just a part of a brain? Or is it even, well, my spinal cord? Or is it my hands, my fingers, my eyes? What defines me? And this is a comic I found from Abstruse Goose. It's called iCyborg. Trying to get it a bit bigger. That's it. So on the top there's the brain and the spinal cords, and it's connected to, let's say, the tongue and the mouth through nerves. And from there it's going onto the cell phone, which consists of microprocessors and so on, and a big antenna on the other side. So where's the boundary? I mean, same goes on with the monitor, the eyes and the monitor, and the hands and the keyboard and the computer. From computer it goes into the internet, and there's Google and Twitter and whatever going on. And so I just liked it. It was pretty much what I'm trying to convey. There's no real boundary that you can define. This becomes clear when you think about artificial limbs. So if your arm is severed or something like that, you might get prostheses. And is it still part of your body? At least it works pretty much like the old one. So augmented reality is another thing when you enhance your senses with, well, let's say, when you're looking at the sky and you're pointing your phone at there, you can see the constellations. You wouldn't know otherwise. So is it becoming part of you when you perceive it through, let's say, your cell phone, what's going on outside? What it all boils down to in the individual is you've got some input going into an individual. In our sense, it's mostly through our senses and eyes and so on. And there's some output coming out of it, like I'm talking to you now. And or I might interact with physical stuff. So input, output, it's pretty much all there is. Okay, and once you reach the part that you cannot really make a boundary and between the people interacting, and even the systems they're forming by interaction, you will get lots of Borgs. If you say that these systems actually act like, well, individuals. There are some individuals which are pretty renowned, like Google, or sorry, I mean individual is not the right word. I mean it's corporations. It's something that the American law even has made a persona for. They even act to the outside like they are, a person. And what I was trying to show is there are quite a lot of collectives in this sense going on, like the states, governments, the religions, of course. Those are the very old ones. Then we have the media, the new media, and, well, the general AT&T, General Motors, and all that. So let's go into detail on some of them. I mean, political parties and governments, they form some sort of group that comes together in a congress or whatever, and so they form some sort of collective, which is taking input and generating output. And they had a problem. They've always been there, but they were pretty slow on catching up on the internet. I mean, it was like just a few years ago that they actually started thinking really about it. So they're a bit slow, obviously. There are really few constituents in there. There are just a bunch of, let's say, 600 politicians or so in the higher parts of the government. So they will have to deal with few constituents. So when you go to corporations, it has been a bit difficult. They are very hierarchically structured, like there's the boss on top, then there's the leaders for the units, and so on. It's quite static in its nature. So, but they've always been very good at adapting new technologies to their internal communication and even external communication. And basically, the corporations among each other were very well connected through the jet set, like traveling abroad and have a meeting and communicating what's going on there. So actually the corporations, you can look at a corporation as a Borg, but you can also look as the network of corporations as one bigger Borg. The media is also a very classical one. It has got the function of reducing complexity and passing it onto a lower complexity level. And so the media has pretty much been some kind of filter layer in these networks that we're looking at, neural networks. So everything pretty much changed with the internet. And this is so new about it. I mean, the last big thing like that was inventing books and printing. And now there's the internet. There's blogs and forums and all that stuff going on. And it's really, really fast. It's totally unprecedented in history that people can reach out to so many other people. And which basically for the graph means it's much denser and it has connections in both directions. When you look at the distribution models of television, for example, it's just broadcasting. There's no channel back to the TV station. So that's low latency, efficient distribution, and everybody can participate. And let's look at some of those Borg in particular that I find quite fascinating. I mean, they even start giving themselves, it even starts giving itself a name. So if you go on the 4chan board, especially the notorious B channel, then you ask, who are you? It will tell you, hey, I'm anonymous. And so since there's no ID going on there, you have got a network that is characterized by the topics. So you've got the boards which are under a subject, and everything in the board is somehow related to that subject. It has a very short memory. It's very good at forgetting, because everything that isn't really repeated will scroll out of the lists and it will be totally deleted. There's another nice aspect about this. Nobody seems to care what's going on there. You will find everything there, and it's not always fun. They're doing it for the lols. That means they try to have fun. They create lots of memes. I mean, there's obviously there's lots of creativity going on there. And so that's certainly a Borg to look at. Twitter is the other one that I'm particularly involved with. It's another one of those people who can somehow be, well, grouped together as Twitter users. And if you look at the network, you will find that there's an average of 126 followers to every